Mesdames et messieurs, the greatest festival of our contemporary society, the Olympic Games, is about to begin. This is going to be close.
Oh! They're all completely gassed! They've given it everything on the global bucket! Oh, yeah! No! Oh!
Brilliant! But that is an Olympic championship.
Ready.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Keep the Flame Alive, the podcast for fans of the Olympics and Paralympics. If you love the games, we are the show for you. I am your host, Jill Jaracz, joined as always by my lovely co-host, Alison Brown. Alison, hello, how are you?
You know, I think it's colder today than it was at most of the days we were in Cortina.
Funny how that works for Winter Paralympics.
I don't know what's going on, man. It's supposed to be spring here, but I'm thinking of winter games, that's for sure.
That's good because we are talking Winter Games today. We are talking with Catherine Raney-Norman from Utah 2034. Catherine is a four-time Olympian. She competed in speed skating at the 1998, 2002, 2006, and 2010 Winter Olympics. After her retirement, she transitioned into development work and is now the Vice President of Development and Athlete Relations for Utah 2034. We talked with Catherine about obtaining funding for these games, especially since the U.S. is also hosting in 2028, which makes things very complicated funding-wise for Utah. But Utah innovated and they came up with a brand new funding plan called Podium 34, which we talk about in our conversation. Catherine goes into more detail about this program and what makes it special. And just a little programming note, we recorded our conversation back on September 30, 2025, which is before the 2034 Games changed its name from Salt Lake City 2034 to Utah 2034. So that's why we're not referring to the updated name of these games in the interview. Take a listen. Catherine Raney-Norman, thank you so much for joining us. As an athlete, because you were an athlete and you competed in 4 Olympics, how aware of you about how they got funded when you were an athlete?
I mean, I think it's fair to say I had absolutely no clue as to how games were funded or any of that sort of stuff. You know, I was focused obviously on being an athlete and competing, and also, quite frankly, like, how do I fund myself to chase that dream, but not necessarily like the big world of the Olympic movement or any way, shape, or form. I think I always assumed it was, you know, the television commercials and the sponsorship that funded the games, but never really knew the nitty gritty behind it.
Games and the Olympics have a reputation for, like, there is a ton of money behind there somewhere. Did you see a ton of money as you went from games to games in what you experienced?
No. I mean, again, like, as an athlete, I was just, excited to be at the games and in the village and the venues and all of that sort of stuff. And so you didn't like, you never saw flashy. It wasn't flashy. There was never a flashy experience. It was more about coming together and being with other athletes and being around the other athletes that really kind of made that experience.
That's interesting because that's really the point of the games, is to bring the world together. And then you have these competitions too. But it's interesting here to hear the athlete perspective of that's what's more important versus the flashy, the look and the feel and a lot of spending on that stuff.
Yeah, and I think also though sport has dramatically changed, right? Since I competed. I retired. My last games was in 2010. So, we're talking 15 years ago. And sport has changed. Athlete marketing, awareness, opportunity has changed, and we're seeing that dramatic shift around NIL going forward. And I think there's just a bigger, in today's world, bigger awareness around how to sort of capitalize on the opportunity of the games. I think social media drives a lot of it as well. I always joke, at my first games it was AOL, like the you're connected, right? Like, to finally, to retiring, and there was Facebook was just starting at that point in time, right? And so it's really that interesting change in technology and in the ability for athletes to build the brand. So at my tenure as a competitive athlete, right? I was in a different space than where the athletes are now, and the awareness of the marketing and the sponsorship and the ability to capitalize on your performance, etc., or on your story. And so it's just a bit different now than it was back then. But I still think that I would say most athletes, obviously they want to have an optimized experience, but it's about that experience. It's about ensuring that they have the best quality field of play, the best experience in the village. Because these are, I tell so many people so often that sitting in the seat I sit in now, right? Like, I'm very much so the steward of that 12-year-old who's dreaming of competing in the games, right? And so making sure that they have the best experience possible is my top priority.
I think it's very interesting that the games that you competed in, 98, 02, 06, 10, have such different legacies and different reputations for how it went during the Olympics. You look at 2010 versus '06. Very different stories came out of those Olympics. And how are you taking what was your experience and then bringing it to the organizing committee?
Yeah, I think what I am really looking for is, or what I'm trying to help lead forward with, is taking the culture of the community and infusing that into the athlete experience. That's one of the things that I acutely remember were the cultures of the different places that I was in, right? The Japanese culture when I was there, and it was very traditional and very respectful. And then you transition to 2002, right? And you've got American Pride like no other, and the Clydesdales going down State Street, and Italy. I'll never forget getting to see Andrea Bocello perform, right, listening to classical opera music during the games, right. And so it's really, I think, about infusing that culture of the community into that experience to help shape that games time experience for the athletes. And also it's about, I think, evolving the games from what we did in '02. I am a staunch believer we can't do what we did in '02. That's a little bit of a disservice not only to the athletes but to our community. So how do we change the trajectory? How do we bring Olympic and Paralympic sport to a higher level? And I think we'll get there. I think we'll get there with some of the fan experience, so that the athletes walk away and say there was nothing like that before in my career, right? And I know I had that. I had that in some of the games that I participated in and competed in, where, I mean, never in my wildest dreams did I think I would compete in a stadium in the United States and have 7,000 fans. It was incredible, right? Absolutely amazing. And so those are things that I'm looking forward to.
When you became chair of the Salt Lake City bid committee, what did you learn about Salt Lake City 2002 funding that you wanted to maintain and or do differently?
Yeah, we were in a really different position back in '02. We had the games awarded 7 years in advance. We didn't have what we have this go around, where Los Angeles has their games in advance of us. So we didn't have any barrier to go into marketplace or anything like that. And so, the 2002 games really, they took a very traditional path in terms of securing funds around sponsorship, ticketing, a little bit of hospitality in there, and then obviously a small portion of philanthropic effort. But it took a much more traditional trajectory. And I think what we're seeing as we look forward to obviously 2034, we had to reinvent how we were going to raise revenue, especially, understanding that Los Angeles was already in the marketplace, and their need to be successful as well. But also looking at, again, as I talk about the games experience for the athletes have changed, the games experience for sponsors, for donors has changed as well, right? It's much more immersive, it's much more value proposition driven than you've seen in the past, right? You will see key sponsors who want to come to the table and best understand what your values are and how do we work together in a partnership. And that's just the changing landscape of the marketing world that's happening.
It's so funny to hear you talk because we've spoken multiple times to Terrence Burns, who is so big in the Olympic marketing world. And his mantra is, what's the value proposition of the Olympics? So I feel like he got in your head in that good way.
I guess inadvertently, he is a friend. We have not talked on this topic before, but he is a friend. But I think it's across the board, and I kind of share. I do believe that the sponsorship space and the philanthropic space are very similar, right? Philanthropists are looking for impact. They're looking for how their dollars can uplift a community. I think you're seeing that in the sponsorship space as well. Those same kind of value driven decisions are being made. How do they align with their corporate values? How do they align with their employee values? That you see a lot of similarities between the two spaces, quite honestly.
When did that shift start to happen? Because you've been in development a long time as well in other capacities, but it's not really, hey, give us money, we'll slap your name on something or give you an ad. But yeah, there's a lot more work and thought that goes into it now. When did that change, and how does it improve the experience of the event overall to have people are they more invested then?
Yeah, I think, when we look at the philanthropic side of things, and we look forward to 2034, and take a step back and go, okay, these games are, look, we're unique, and we're unique compared to other host cities, because we have all of our venues in place, right? We have a lot of knowledge here in the state and nationwide as to how to put on games and successful games. And so for us, from day one, I think when I was put in place as the bid chair, it was all about how do we impact and uplift our communities and our stakeholders. And it would be a missed opportunity if we didn't do that, quite frankly. And I think a lot of the individuals who have stepped up and raised their hands, they see that opportunity because they saw the impact of 2002 and what it had on our community, how it uplifted, literally uplifted some of our neighborhoods by having venues there, how it literally changed some of the lives of people who were volunteering, of young kids that got to be a part of it. We saw a dramatic positive ripple effect, not only economically, but culturally here in Utah. And so, when the games were awarded to us again, I think everybody, myself included, genuinely believe that this is really an opportunity to continue to uplift Utah, to show others how we give back, how we serve, and to put on a games that honors the athletes.
What are those conversations like with LA 28? How much, I mean, obviously USOPC is involved, but just the direct organizing committee discussions.
Yeah, I work really closely with what I would say is my counterpart over at LA 28 with Janet Evans. And we really spend a lot of time talking about, the role of the athlete in the organizing committee, the role of the athlete voice in the organizing committee. How do we provide opportunities to athletes who are currently competing, but also those who have retired, and how do we honor the athletes that kind of came before us that are going to be there in LA? And so, honestly, I'm really grateful to Janet, to her leadership, to her friendship, and helping, and to her understanding, where the two of us kind of see the athlete perspective, and the importance of the athlete and their role in this, and how we do right by them. That has really been something that we have focused on, Janet and myself. And then, a little bit taking a step further back is, and I think this is a lot of things that are being driven by Gene Sykes, the chair of the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee, is how do we take this opportunity between Los Angeles and Salt Lake City? It really is a golden age of sport. How do we elevate the movement holistically across the country? And we're still figuring that out, right? And we're still working with the USOPC on that. We're working on LA with that, but that's a really important piece. Is what does that continuous thread between the two entities look like, and how does that broaden the movement holistically as well? Because we want engaged fans, proud Americans, young athletes post 2034 as well. So this time period is, I think, really critical and almost kind of fragile in terms of how we execute this.
This is a tricky question, but I want to ask it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, talk about a fabulous room for athletes where Janet Evans and Catherine Rainey are taking care of you. But do you think it matters, or how it matters, that it's two women athletes looking at this?
Yeah, I do. um, I really proud of our collective leadership, and for it to come from two athletes who have really look at we've both invested basically our entire lives in this movement for the betterment of athletes. And it's funny, I shouldn't say funny, but you look at Paris 2024, and that was the first time there was gender equity in sport. That's kind of, I mean, eye opening, right? So to have her as honestly, I consider her a partner and a co-leader in this space. I'm really grateful for it, and I really hope that we can serve. And sometimes I feel the weight and obligation of how do we be role models to the next generation of young female athletes that are coming up that want to be leaders in sport. It's still a challenging space for females. Sport administration, it's definitely, there's still a glass ceiling that we're trying to break through every day. And so to have her a part of this journey alongside to serve as a resource and a sounding board and a mentor, I'm just really grateful for it. And I'm grateful. I think it's important to recognize and learn from the other female leaders that have come before us, right? We just had Anita DeFrance here in Utah for the Olympic Assembly. Talk about an OG right there. She is an OG. Donna De Verona was here in town as well. And to consider those women as friends and as role models, and to kind of sit back and see, or you realize the hurdles they overcame, right? Keeps your engine going at times, for sure.
We heard a lot from Sarah Hirschland from the USOPC in media calls where she would say, Salt Lake City is ready. We're ready for 2030 or 2034, whatever the IOC needs. What was the response planning wise, funding wise, when you got 2034?
Yeah, I think we were. Look, we're grateful no matter what games we get, 20, 30, or 34, right? And I think I go back to sort of my sports side of things, and right, we were going to show up on the line, on the start line for either one, and be in the race for either one. And we're grateful for either one that we have. The ability for 2034 around the economic side is obviously, we can get through Los Angeles. We can help to work on either renewals or build off hopefully the momentum and success that they have in 28 for our games. And so that's a real positive for us around 2034. But if we had been awarded 2030, I mean, trust me, we still would be celebrating and jumping up and down in the streets and figuring out how we were going to make this work financially. And again, the fact that we have our venues in place is a huge relief for us in terms of being able to execute and deploy timely. And so yeah, no matter what, we were going to jump up for joy. 2030 or 34, we were going to be there.
Well, I did get to stop into the party in Paris
Yeah.
in the restaurant, and
Oh, good.
everybody was very, very excited. It was a fun room to be in.
Oh, it was fantastic, right? It was really great, and to have that many people from our community come over. But what I was so grateful for was our presentation was at like 9 or 9:30 a.m. in Paris, which was like 2:30 a.m. here in Salt Lake City. And we had gone out and we were like, okay, we're going to have a watch party. And I said, oh, let's make it a pajama party, right? And I'll never forget, like, we kind of got there, we sat down in the front row, and I was sitting next to the governor, and we were like, did anybody show up? Because we were going to do a live shot back, right? And we're like, oh man, anybody show up? And sure enough, the governor pulled out his phone and he started showing pictures and he's like, they're there. Utahns are there, right? Like they showed up for us. And that was just magical, quite honestly, to have that many people of our community come out at 2:30 in the morning and be, so excited. That's really incredible.
That's kind of a perfect segue because when we first mentioned Podium 34 in the show, I said philanthropy and showing up is so part of the Utah culture. So let's just talk a little bit about
Yeah.
what it is, how it works, and how this does tie into what Salt Lake and Utah is all about.
Yeah, so Podium 34 is the official donor program of the 2034 Olympic and Paralympic Games. And we knew early on, still in the bid phase, that obviously with Los Angeles in the marketplace and wanting to ensure that they were successful, the only way that we could raise revenue and stand up the organizing committee and start on so many key elements was to raise philanthropic dollars. And Utah is the most generous state in the nation in many different ways, whether it's financially or through service or their talents. And so we got to work, and Podium was pretty quiet for a while there. A lot of folks did not know about Podium 34, and we started having conversations with many of our community leaders and champions, as I call them. And a lot of them, had supported back in '02. And again, they recognized the kind of catalytic and transformational moment that we have here with our community. And I think Utah is really unique in the desire of these community leaders to make it a better place, and the desire of these community leaders to provide opportunity to all. And I am continually inspired by them. And for me, it was such a joy to be able to sit down with them across the table, talk to them about what the games means for us in 2034, what we're hoping to accomplish from an impact side of things, early community impact living legacy efforts, not post games, as post games as well, but definitely living legacy efforts. And to have them raise their hands up and say, we want to be a part of this, right? And it's so interesting in that one of our captains, our team captains, is the Miller family, and Gail is one of the most generous people you will meet ever. She's just wonderful, right? And I've heard her say she wonders if she's ever if she, has she done enough, right? To have that mentality and foresight and care is unreal. And so we are tremendously grateful, obviously, to the Miller family, but to all of the families who have raised their hands and said, we believe in this. We believe in the power of the Olympics. We believe that it will bring people together, that we will have impact on our community, that we will create an environment and games experience that far exceeds anything any athlete, any family, any stakeholder could possibly have. And that they believe that this will continue to uplift our communities. And I think we all feel, again, this is an opportunity for us as individuals, not only in Utah, but hopefully across the country, to be changed for good, for better, right?
When did those conversations start?
Oh man, they started back in 2023. Mm-hmm.
So this was a year plus to even
Yeah,
get each family and
you
donor on board.
in all honesty, it was for a long time. It was myself and another individual that was helping me as a volunteer to line everything up and to get everything in. And look, at most of them were an immediate yes, which is very outside of the norm when you look at like philanthropy and giving standards and statistics, because this is my profession. So I was like, oh, this could take us a while. And people raise their hands right away, so we almost had to catch up a little bit. to them saying yes, like, oh, okay, they've already said yes. So we had to sort of catch up on the back end of things. And again, just being a 1.5 and now a 2.5 operation, we were doing juggling a lot on top of finalizing a bid to the IOC as well. So yeah, it was really remarkable, and we were just so grateful to be able to announce them on the 8th of September, and had a really beautiful video showcasing their thoughts and their hopes and their aspirations around the games. And it was, we had a moment in July where we were starting to film, and like I got emotional on the first day because I was like, okay, we're finally here. We're finally at this moment where we can tell their stories, right? Like I just said, this is what I've been waiting for, is to be able to tell their stories. And so it was a sprint to the finish, of course. And we're not done. We're not done yet. We're still out raising support, but I think what is really, again, unique and special with this group is how can we invite more people in and more people to the podium, right? And that mentality of abundance, and how can we ensure that these games are successful and embraced by people all over our state and nation.
This style of philanthropy is very American
Mhm.
in that, all those private donations are not something you see in a lot of other countries. So what has been the response to Podium 34 from kind of the wider Olympic and Paralympic family?
I think they are all like blown away by the success. Like it's unimaginable for them. And everybody is sending in their congratulations, and some are even calling and asking, like, how did you do this? Right. And I think it's two things. One, it sends a message of how important private philanthropic support is here to sport in the United States. It is really a backbone. With not, we do not get government funding. We don't have a ministry of sport. And so I think that it again showcases, as we use the lingo in the movement, the team behind the team, right? Well, it's really built on the generosity of Americans here in the United States. I think a second piece that's really, hopefully not an eye opener, but also curiosity, I think, amongst people internationally, is these are new ways to innovate and fund games. No one has come out of the gate from an organizing committee standpoint and raised this type of support this early on at this level and these magnitudes. And so I kind of hope, and I think it's important for OCOGs and games to continually think about, how do we revisit the business model? How do we reinvent ourselves? And I am hoping that this is one way that others might be able to learn from, or explore, or try, quite honestly.
Yeah, well, Alison was very diplomatic in how she phrased that question, but when we saw the Podium 34 release, the two of us went, "What's the big deal? It's like business as usual in the United States." And then as we thought about it, we're like, "Oh, wait, other countries in the world don't do this
No.
philanthropic push, or if they do, it hasn't been around for very long. It's still very new in Europe and many other regions."
Yeah.
And then you were like, "Oh, yeah, well, this is just gonna change the way games are funded going forward," and it's really interesting.
I hope it opens up new opportunities and new revenue streams for future hosts. Right? I really do, actually. I hope that it does, because so often you read about hosts, and there's cost overruns, or they've revisited the budget, or any of that sort of stuff. But not only how it funds the games, but also how it engages people. Right? This is, look at it, they aren't small numbers, but these individuals are deeply engaged in the success of the games, in the impact of the games, and they are our team, right? And they are cheering us on every step of the way. They are leaders within our community who are out there helping to share the message of the games as to why this is a benefit and an opportunity. And that's really important, right? Across all hosts, regardless if it's in the United States or someplace else, right? And I think that's a piece to it is it's not only on the revenue side of things, but on the engagement side and that community support side and how important that is.
What are donors expecting, and what else besides money are you expecting from them?
I think our donors are there again. They're looking for an opportunity to be involved and to be a part of things and to be a part of the journey. And we invited some of our donors to come and join us at the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Assembly, and that was wonderful for them to learn more about the movement and be a part of things. And I think what I'm hoping to kind of get from them is one, being a sounding board, quite honestly. These are individuals that invest in areas all across our community, right? And I love seeing where the synergies happen between where they are investing and how we as an organizing committee could potentially partner with another NGO. Could we bring athletes to a different event and kind of just honestly kind of spread the love of the movement. And I'm really grateful for that side of things. And they invest in small businesses, and the games are so big and so they're just so big, and they move really quickly, and sometimes you don't know what you don't know, right? And I love that our donors can help us in that space. I'll share another example of, we had a large delegation that went to Paris, and so we did an event before we went to Paris, kind of debrief everybody. Here's the schedule. Here's what you need to wear. All of those sort of things, right? But we did it at another nonprofit here in town. We did it at Spy Hop, which is a film and art kind of nonprofit here in town. And it allowed us to tell the story of Spy Hop by being there, right? And the impact that Spy Hop has had on the community. And that was because one of our donors was able to be like, hey, did you go check out this venue, right? And those connective moments, I think, are really important because these are individuals who invest in every need that our community has, all of the different social determinants that we face, right? And again, part of our goal is to uplift our communities. Well, having individuals like this be the sounding board to tell us like, hey, did you go check out the Other Side Academy? They're building a hotel, right? Are they part of your hotel block, right? We wouldn't have known if we hadn't had heard that from, and now we can bring them in. And those are the things that I get excited about, right? That there are ways for us to work with other groups within the community that they can just help shed the light on, because I would never want somebody to feel like they couldn't be a part of this or to feel like they were left out. And again, it's such a big operation that sometimes you just don't know what you don't know, and I'm grateful for our donors to share that with us.
The Podium 34 money is coming out slowly over the next 10 years. It's being kind of meted out. So how is it being used in the different stages of games planning?
Yeah, no, happy to share. So, obviously, the first kind of tranche is helping to stand up the organizing committee, which is a very robust 8 employees right now. And we have an office, which is a significant upgrade from the community center that I worked out of for the last 4 years. Mill Creek Library, love you. Thank you so much. Okay. But I greatly appreciate it.
I just want to quick interrupt you. So right now you've got 8 employees. In 2034, what are you projected to have?
I think we're going to have like 1,500 employees or something like that. I think that's what it ends up being. So it just scales dramatically. So the early dollars are focused around a couple of things. One, obviously being able to just stand up the organizing committee, get people working, get things moving forward. 2 early community impact initiatives. And last week, I'm really happy about this, was sort of our first step into the water and into the pond and having impact within the community, where again we partnered with another nonprofit organization, Show Up, which is the First Ladies Initiative. And during the Olympic and Paralympic Assembly, we packed 5,000 after school snack kits for the Granite Education Foundation and Granite School District. It's one of our largest here in Utah, but also one of our most underserved. And so it was really, I think, a great kind of first step into this space, and being able to one, show people from across the Olympic and Paralympic movement. We had like 400 people here in town, what we do here in Utah and how we lead forward with service. And 2, to sort of share that love within our community and start to push the values of the Olympic and Paralympics in a very small way, right? Each of the kids they're getting a notebook with the logo on it, the whole thing, right? But it's a very small first step. But that first step is, I think, just step one of many of how do we impact our communities early on, especially with an emphasis on, I would say, on youth. And I think, again, we're in this incredible position where you think about the 8-year-old or the 12-year-old and where they're going to be in 8.5 years, right? Where they could be an athlete, they could be a volunteer, they could be an intern for us. These early dollars are allowing us to start in that space, in those spaces. And so early community impact around youth, service, and sport are where we're going to start to lead forward, especially, I would say, between now and 2029, 2030. We'll continue to ramp up those efforts, especially, I hope they grow as we get more and more staff. And those are where for sure early dollars are going to head. And then obviously in 29, things sort of do a big flip and we go into the commercial market space. 31 and 32 is really targeted around kind of readiness, and 33, 34 is around execution. And so you'll see some different phases. But again, that's part of the beauty of Podium, of allowing us to have the financial support and resources to start to lay the groundwork on early community impact and to start creating those opportunities. During the Olympic and Paralympic Assembly, we brought a children's choir up from Utah County to come up and sing. And I got the best note back from them, and I'm going to cheat and just sort of read. And it says, "I wanted to reach out and thank you for the opportunity for our youth to participate in the Assembly Town Hall on Friday. I've been hearing from parents and students all weekend about this once in a lifetime experience and how much it meant to each of them. It was such a special experience for me as an educator and performer to conduct the small choir and to participate in that day. I'm so grateful for the connection to the root that allows for such incredible network of incredible people and opportunities," right?
And the Olympics is nothing without a children's choir.
They were so wonderful. But we had them. They were waiting, and I brought in one of my fellow athletes, an athlete from bobsled by the name of Chris Kenny, who's also a singer as well. And so he came in and he spoke to the kids about what it means to sing the national anthem, especially to an athlete, right? One of the most important songs you'll hear as an athlete when you stand on the podium, or the dream of singing that song as you stand on the podium. So that's what Podium 34 lets us do, right? Those simple little nuggets that I'm kind of sharing, and as we're trying to sort of dip our toe in the pond, right? How do we do good work in the lead up to, during, and after these games?
Are you hoping that more donors come onto the podium?
I do. I do hope more come on. I do. We're still chasing our goal, but I just want more people to fall in love with this movement like have fallen in love with it, and that they will continue after the lifespan of the organizing committee, that they will continue to support the Olympic and Paralympic movement as a whole, whether that's here in Utah or it's nationally. But our movement, our athletes, our kids, they need this. I think our country needs this right now more than anything. And so, yes, I want more people to come to the podium. I want them to stay on the podium after 2034 and continue to be a part of this.
What is the overall goal for the program?
Yeah, so we've set I would say a floor goal of 300 million, and we're getting closer to that number, which is great. And we'll see what happens if we surpass that and continue to raise beyond 300. And maybe it should be 340. I don't know. Um,
Yes.
maybe we should change it. Should go right to 340. But we have a floor goal, and again, if the more people that want to come and be a part of this, we will always welcome them to the podium.
Excellent. Catherine Raney-Norman, thank you so much for talking with us about funding and how it's going to change and being a part of the initial spark that is igniting that fuel. So thank you so much.
Of course, thank you guys. I hope to stay in touch on the journey.
Thank you so much, Catherine. You can find out more about Utah 2034 at utah2034.org, and the Podium 34 program is utah2034.org/podium34.
Still 2 years away, and yet we have so much LA news.
Well, that's good. It's interesting, and I think we're able to find more LA news because we understand the government systems and we know what to look for. So
And we speak English.
So that helps. Big news on the hospitality house front. So Santa Monica, as you might recall, did not want to host any LA 2028 sporting events, but there will still be games time fun within the city limits. The Santa Monica Daily Press and the Sports Examiner report that its city council unanimously voted to negotiate for licensing agreements that include hosting a Nations Village at Crescent Bay Park and portions of Lot 4 South. Current plans are for this village to be in existence for 103 days. The village will include a satellite broadcast center, country hospitality houses, and public engagement zones. The village will be produced by Hochsitz, an Austrian company that has done Olympic setups since Sochi 2014. So at Milano 2026, they built some broadcast studios and the Cortina House of Switzerland and the Omega Pavilion in Milano. So if you were there or you have seen pictures, that's kind of the style that you're looking at. At Paris, they built the P&G Pavilion at Musée Rodin and the Paris Omega House.
And that Cortina House of Switzerland had quite a reputation.
It did, and it was beautiful.
Yeah, for being beautiful and a lot of fun. So that speaks well to what this company is going to come up with.
Yes. So the plan that got submitted to the Santa Monica City Council calls for 10 structures in the area that they've designated. Some of them will be multi-story, and they range in size from 100 square meters to 750 square meters. The public will have full access. And if you were in Milano, the setup looks a little bit like it could be the fan zone and sponsor pavilions around Cairoli and the castle area. So there was that fan zone, and Coke Peak was right across from it, kind of thing. This is kind of, it looks like that because the fan zone had all those little tiny tents and things. Santa Monica is set to make $1.15 million from licensing fees. And as part of the legacy initiatives, the park's historic pergola, which is on the National Register of Historic Places, will be refurbished. So this project will be in addition to Club France, which will be at the Annenberg Community Beach House in Santa Monica. That will be open for 35 days. And Santa Monica will make $1.55 million plus reimbursement of city services for that deal.
Well, anytime they can put together these fan zones away from competition is actually great, because people who can't get to competitions, who can't afford the tickets, they don't want to get into that melee of some of those venues. This is a great opportunity to share the Olympics and the Paralympics, it sounds like, since it's going to be up for so many days, with other fans.
Yeah, so this is going to be nice, and it spreads out the Olympic traffic a little bit, to say. I mean, yeah, it's really cool to have Olympic zones, but it does bring more of the region into the excitement of what's going on. Because when we were in Milano, the venues were all at the end of train lines. So you really only got that excitement if you were on the train or at the venue, or there was a little bit down by the Duomo because there were some activation installations there, and by the castle where there were other things going on. But, I think most of the city really did not feel super Olympic.
Yeah, agreed. Cortina definitely had more of that feel just because it was a smaller, more condensed area. And I'm sure during the Olympics, we didn't get to see Cortina during the Olympics when more venues there were in place and more houses were open. That just must have been an absolute buzz of activity because you've concentrated those places so you can just walk from one thing to the next and have a whole day of adventures without even going to an event.
Yeah, definitely. So this will be exciting. Not so exciting is the University of Southern California, USC, their publication, The Daily Trojan, reports that the U.S. Secret Service will establish stop and search zones on certain parts of the campus during summer and fall 2028. Anyone passing through these zones will be stopped and searched. Those zones have not yet been established. So USC will be home to the Coliseum, which will host athletics and the opening and closing ceremonies, and also the Galen Center, where badminton and rhythmic gymnastics takes place. And University Park campus is hosting the press and media center. It's unknown really how this will work, especially when they haven't been determined. I mean, it kind of sounds like if you want to cut through campus, you might get stopped. So
Yeah, it probably hasn't been determined because they haven't quite laid out all the walking paths through campus as to, okay, if you're going to the Coliseum, where can you walk and where would you have access? We ran into this a little bit in Paris when we were going to the closing ceremony. Several blocks away from the venue, they had a stop and search spot because
right.
everybody walking past that point was going to have access to the area around the stadium. So I guess they'll come up with these zones based on how they set up walking paths.
Yeah. So that will be something to keep in mind if you are going to go to these events, that you may have to build an extra time for traveling and getting through search zones. It's also unknown that whether the school will hold a summer semester in 2028, which if they do, it
don't
adds
do
another
that.
layer. It does add another
don't do
layer of
that.
complication. If they do, it adds another layer of complication. They do know right now that there's going to be less parking on campus.
Oh, yeah. Goodness gracious. There's going to be no parking on campus.
In Olympic and Paralympic travel news, because I'll get a sound for this at some point, the Tread of Pioneers Museum in Steamboat Springs is having weekly Olympic heritage tours all summer long from June 2 through September 9th. They're hosted by Olympian Ben Barond, who competed in Nordic Combined at Pyeongchang 2018. Event is 9 to 10 a.m. It's free, and you'll get half-price admission to the museum, too. No reservations needed, just drop in, but they do appreciate donations. So we will have a link in the show notes to this, which is kind of cool that all summer long.
And of course, they start this after I did 2 trips to Denver when I could have gotten myself up there with my little rental car. And I'm not getting another between. So I figured out I did something like 8 flights in 7 weeks.
Wow. Oh, boy.
And I don't know how people do that. Like for regular life, how they do that kind of flying all the time. I'm like swearing off airplanes, I think, until LA.
Which you might have to because of the cost of fuel.
Well, that's true too. Welcome to Shuklistan.
It is the time of the show where we check in with our team, Keep the Flame Alive. These are past guests and listeners of the show who make up the citizenship of our very own country of Shuklistan. First up, we've got some sports results and upcoming events.
So at the FIE Foil World Cup in Cairo, Lee Kiefer placed 9th, Lauren Scruggs placed 33rd, and the women's team, which included them both, won the bronze. On the men's side, Nick Itkin tied for 3rd, Alexander Massialis placed 5th, Garrick Meinhardt placed 20th, and Miles Chomley-Watson placed 28th, and the men's team also won the bronze.
The Boston Marathon was this past week, and Daniel Romanchuk placed 2nd in the wheelchair division. He finished over 6 minutes behind Marcel Hug,
the silver bullet.
Daniel said he lost a glove on a big downhill in the first
Jeez.
5K, so he had to wait for traffic to clear before going back to get it. However, he is thrilled with his finish because if you remember, he had some shoulder issues and it's been rehabbed and it's holding strong right now. So good for him.
Excellent. Paddler Nevin Harrison won the women's C1 200 meters at the ACA Sprint National Team Trials.
In the first Paracycling World Cup event of the season in Chiang Mai, Thailand, Samantha Bosco placed first and Grace Norman placed second in the individual time trial cycle 4. Samantha also placed first in the individual road race, which Grace did not finish. Dennis Connors finished second in both the individual time trial and road race in the tricycle 2 category, and the tour moves to Belgium at the end of April.
Well, I'm glad to see Dennis Connors competing because he was kicking around retiring after some disappointing finishes last season.
Yeah.
So he has changed his mind and kept going, which is great. A Greco-Roman wrestler, Alejandro Sancho, is the top seed at the 72-kilogram class at the 2026 U.S. Open Championship from April 22nd to the 26th in Las Vegas. This event will serve as the World Team Trials and establish the 2026 Greco-Roman Senior World Team.
In accolades news, Jaden Blackwell has earned a multi-year partnership with Allianz Partners.
Pole vaulter Katie Moon was honored with resolutions in the Ohio State House and Senate recognizing her gold medal at the 2025 World Athletics Championships.
Cross-country skier Keegan Randall has been inducted into the U.S. Ski and Snowboard Hall of Fame.
And more Grace Norman news. Para-triathlete Grace Norman received the New York Athletic Club Athlete of the Year award.
And para-ice hockey player Monica Quimby, who is having an amazing year.
She's just killing it all year long. My goodness, Monica.
She was named a winner for the Tampa Bay Business and Wealth Women Who Win Awards 2026.
And my favorite kind of news, paddler Lisa Carrington is pregnant with her first child. She plans to race in World Cups in May with baby and then taking maternity leave for her September due date. She intends to continue racing in hopes of qualifying for LA 28, but one step at a time. She's got to get through the baby delivery first and then she'll get back to training. So congratulations to Lisa. That's really exciting.
Yes. And that will do it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening.
And until next time, keep the flame alive.